Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sideline Brief Podcast. We're on episode 219. We got the AFC South today, the last division in the AFC that we got to review their season and let you guys know how their off-season might fare. Off-season is coming up very, very soon. I believe first week in March, we got the new league year. So a lot of exciting things on the horizon. Plus, we have UFC. We have a UFC fight night going over some of the main events. So with all that being said, guys, stay tuned. Let's jump right into the AFC South. Last division of the AFC, like I said in the opener. I would say a lot of surprises coming out the AFC South this year. Great start by the Colts, but pretty flaming out end there with Daniel Jones getting hurt and that fiasco. Phillip Rivers coming out of retirement for the last couple of games. Anthony Richardson, not really getting a chance, plus getting concussed and hurt from getting something thrown at his face. A lot of crazy things happening there. The Colts, Titans, fiasco all over the place. Texans and Jags, with the Jags in particular, with Liam Cohen coming in and definitely changing the culture in Jacksonville. So let's start. I know we started at the bottom last episode, so let's start at the top of the division. Jacksonville Jaguars, definitely my surprise of the year. Coming from this division, especially. Jacob, what are your thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars season? How would you grade them, and what do you think they need to do this offseason to kind of put themselves in the back in the same position?
I think Jacksonville had a great season, all things considered. From where Liam Cohen started, I think most sports people saw him in the headlines before he ever coached his first game with the Duval thing that he got incredibly made fun of for and deserved it. I was one of the people making fun of him. I thought he was a big dumb dipshit. And then turns out he knows ball. Turns out he's a great coach. He's been on McAfee a couple times. He looks like a really cool dude. So I think they had a great season. I'm excited to see the future. Trevor Lawrence, for the first time, really consistently looked like the first overall pick and the next generational prospect that he was kind of supposed to be this past year. So I'm excited to see the growth with Cohen and with Trevor Lawrence. I'm excited for all their weapons. ETN, I think he's a free agent actually, but he's a beast. Obviously, they have Brian Thomas Jr., who didn't have the best season. Jacoby Myers had a great season once he came over from the Raiders. Yep. And the big question in the room, and their number one thing they got to figure out this offseason, is where is Travis Hunter going to play? Are we still doing this two-way carousel, or are we just going to say, hey, go be a wide receiver, or hey, go be a shutdown corner? I still feel like they have to figure that out. And overall, I think they need to beef up their O-line, keep some key people. I know Devin Lloyd, one of their linebackers, is also a free agent. So I would just shore up the ends, get some more depth. And I mean, they won 13 games this year, so they're in a good position for the future, I think, if Trevor Lawrence can maintain the level of play he was at this year.
Okay, Lawrence, what is your grade for the Jacksonville Jaguars season, and what is your outlook for them this offseason?
I kind of would say their season was kind of how that reporter told Cohen at the end of the season, like, hold your head high. We didn't expect a whole lot, and you guys did a whole lot. Mm-hmm. I know everyone gave backlash for it, but that was a pretty decent summarization of the Jaguars season. I mean, you kind of were a little early. I think the small moves they did really panned out, and I would say in terms of overall team performance. I mean, recently they've been, I would say, running it a few back and forth seasons with like Evan Ingram as like that, get it, do everything kind of tight end. It kind of seemed like this year they got Strange stepped up and did a lot more. I think that's something, I still think a weakness they need to, I would say, do a little better on is the tight end position. Like, you can even see for yourself, like within the division, like Tyler Warren came for the Colts, had a pretty good first half of the season. Second half, he flamed out a little bit. That's because the Colts flamed out. But I think that's something they should take note on. Like, hey, there's other teams in this division that are really, really taking advantage of this tight end role. They still don't know what they're doing with their wide receiver corner, but I think that that's one thing you should not overlook going into the next season is your need to keep expanding the offensive explosiveness. I think one thing they did good this offseason was, I think if we remember correctly, it was ETN was on, I would say, kind of like a hot seat. They were talking about trading ETN at the very beginning of the season, getting rid of ETN because of his contract and stuff like that. They kept ETN. He had a pretty decent season. They let the Tank Bigsby, the threat to his position, also the rookie they signed. But, I mean, you can't have 3 running backs. They got rid of I would probably say the correct choice, because when you got to keep that cheap rookie, and you want your reliable vet, and Tank Bigsby just had the short end of the stick at that exact moment. But I thought they did a good job. I would say keeping the core together.
Keeping the core together, yeah. I think they gotta keep the continuity. If you can't, if you can afford to keep guys, keep them. If it makes sense to move on, move on. I will say one thing we got to watch for is Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, he's had a good rookie year, but still some ups and downs. And then going into year 2, I just seen too many drops this year, too many like miscommunications, too many like routes not really being crisp or run to the best of his ability. So if I had to nitpick something, it would probably be Brian Thomas Jr. Like, I was expecting more, especially coming from his rookie season. I drafted him to my fantasy team. I was expecting a leap in terms, but I didn't really see that. So I wonder, do they put Travis Hunter in that spot and kind of make Brian Thomas the second or third guy? Do you try to move Brian Thomas Jr. if you want to commit Travis Hunter to playing full-time offense? Or I don't know. These are, questions that I have. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
To the Bills, sure, I'll take him. I'll even give up the first round pick for him. I agree that he was, and also his best games his rookie year was when Mac Jones was the quarterback and when Trevor was hurt. So he's never had a good rapport with Trevor, and he definitely had a lot of drops early. And I mean, they traded for Jacoby Myers because they weren't getting enough production from their wide receivers. So I definitely think there's a weird sort of place there with Brian Thomas Jr. And I'll even throw in Keon Coleman. How about Keon Coleman in the number 3? Does that entice anybody?
I don't know.
No.
That's making a good argument there. I might have to lean no, like Lawrence said, but Lawrence, any thoughts?
Kind of would just say at this point, I don't even know if you want Keon Coleman in your locker room because that Bills owner really paying him poorly. So, I mean, I don't know. Jacoby Myers is great and all, but I would say the best way to put it, he's got like a ceiling. You kind of know what your upside swing is. I thought the Jacoby Myers was really effective for, I would say, nullifying the Kirk loss. Christian Kirk, I thought, seemed kind of like a big deal of a loss when he left. I thought he had really good chemistry-wise with Trevor Lawrence, and maybe Trevor Lawrence wanted a more vet presence for a shorthand ball. But also Brian Thomas was dealing with injuries throughout the season. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but maybe that really could have affected his play this season. I mean, to have a little bit of a fall from grace from his rookie season, I don't know. He doesn't seem like he has an attitude problem. I think it might have just been a year setback problem.
Yeah, maybe it's just a setback, but hopefully he can maybe kick into gear next season, or maybe he needs a new change of scenery. We'll have to keep our eyes updated and peeled for that. Next up, I believe we have the Texans, second place in this AFC South. Great defense, but at times pretty piss poor offense. Joe Mixon didn't play the whole year. Kind of a carousel at running back. Nico Collins kind of in and out the lineup as well. Didn't help. CJ Stroud got hurt, I think, probably about halfway through the season, but then kind of got back towards the end and get into a groove. Lawrence, start with you first on this one. How would you grade the Texans season, and how do you see their offseason going?
I think I'll give them a B, because at one point this season I believe they were 0-4 or something like that. They were 0-5. And I remember the statistic being that only 3% of teams have ever made it to the playoffs after that record. And they made it, by albeit they got lucky and played the Colts twice after they had already been discombobulated. Got the Titans twice after that point in time too, to give yourself 2 free wins. But they did hold their own when they're most reliable. Great quarterback was down. They had their backup Davis Mills come in. They kept themselves alive. They didn't just flout out like the other teams did around them who had people losing. No, they kept winning. And then they get to the playoffs with that grade A awesome quarterback, and he turned to poop. And I'm not gonna lie, if we look back on the CJ Stroud's postseason records, I don't think he's very good. I think we should have great questions, because I feel like he might be a stat pattern. I can't tell for real. But he's got some bad teams in his division to help him out. But as soon as he gets in the playoffs, it's like fumbles and interception are his best friend, which are pretty much like the opposite of what you want to be doing. But it wasn't just this year that he fumbled the bag so poorly. I mean, don't we remember last year where the Ravens completely dismantled him in the playoffs and made him look like a disgrace? And year after year, it's not the defense that's making them look like they're not a team that's capable of winning in postseason play. Like, it's not the defense in the slightest. I mean, the Ravens scored 32 points on them last year in the playoff game, but I'm pretty sure it was 13-3 or 13-2, whatever it was, for majority of the game, and the game just blew up at the end. Like the Patriots game, they held the Patriots in check. They really did. You can't help the fact that your quarterback threw a pick six. 6 of those points weren't even your defense's fault. CJ Stroud literally tried to help give them a handicap advantage as if he needs to do that. But, it's postseason after postseason, and it's not like you could say his regular season was all that great. Davis Mills, for some points, even when CJ Stroud was looking bad, I mean, Davis Mills, he didn't turn the ball over. He let his defense win the game. I mean, Davis Mills went out there and he beat the Bills. Were they supposed to beat the Bills? No. But Davis Mills knew that the Bills' defense is kind of sus. I can move this ball down the field. And, if I just get in field goal range multiple times, that's all that matters. I think C.J. Stroud has a little bit of a inability to turn that off in his head. I got to score on every play. I got to score on every drive, which leads to I got to get a turnover, half of those times because there's too much air on this ball. I would say that the Texans really need to, I would say, have like a Carolina Panther Bryce Young look. Like, do you want to be paying this man? Because I don't know. Every time the moment gets a little tough, this man is not coming. He's just not.
Okay. Strong take there at the end by Lawrence. Jacob, do you agree? And what would you grade the Texans season?
I'll start by being nice and saying, yes, I do have concerns about CJ Stroud in the big moments. Yep. But, I mean, we had concerns about Sam Darnold until he won the Super Bowl. I mean, every step of the way, it was like, well, the moment's bigger. Can he do it? So It sounds like CJ might be one of those guys that he has to win the big one. But I will also say he's been in the league for 3 years. He has a playoff win in every year. He's made the playoffs every year, which is impressive, even in a bad division. And he's won a game in the playoffs every single year he's been in the league. Yeah. So, I don't think he's lost to the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Super Bowl participant Patriots this year. Those aren't bad losses. Did he play bad in those losses? Yes. But I think we might be going a little too aggressively on the brakes here. I definitely think that he could play better, and he does turn the ball over. But so did Drake May. Drake May did the same thing too, and his team just was good enough to win it. Davis Mills did not beat the Bills. The defense and Will Anderson specifically beat the Bills on that shitty Thursday night. But overall, I think the Texans had a weird year. I mean, they were supposed to be the runaway champion of that division. They lost their first 3. Started 0-3. I think that's the stat. I think only 2 or 3 teams have ever made the playoffs after starting 0-3. And they had to rely on Davis Mills to come in and get some wins middle of the season. Defense was absolutely unbelievable. I don't know how many games you guys sat and watched them, and they're nasty. Will Anderson is such a underrated player. I think people know his name, but that dude is he is going to be Myles Garrett in a couple of years. Like, he is
Okay,
amazing.
okay.
And yeah, I think obviously it goes right back to look at Justin Herbert and his issues. Obviously, Justin Herbert's won 0 playoff games. CJ Stroud's won 3 playoff games, so we can't even compare them on that paper. But I will say that Houston's always had a bad offensive line when CJ's been there. Even the year when they had Laramie Tunsil before they traded him over to Washington, like their O line's always been suspect. I like Nico Collins. I'm big on him. I think he's a legit number one. And obviously, without Joe Mixon, I mean, his impact with the Texans last year was so massive. And so him not playing at all definitely had a negative effect on the offense. But this team right here, I personally think that if they had everything clicking, if they had a better O-line and maybe a healthy Joe Mixon, like they were a Super Bowl contender based on how good that defense was, because they were right up there with Seattle and Denver as just the most feared defenses that we had in the league this year. So I'll agree. I'll give them like a B, maybe a B plus, just for kind of climbing out of that hole. But yeah, they need to definitely shore up that offensive line and basically put it all on CJ so he can be best prepared when those big moments arise. Because I feel like we can't say it's not Justin Herbert's fault because he has a shitty O line, and not say the same thing with CJ Stroud. Like, he also has a bad O line. Like, why is he terrible? Because he also has the same problem Justin Herbert has. So I think CJ is going to figure it out eventually, but I will say he's been weird because every year he's been in the league, he's gotten worse. His rookie year was amazing. He was a stud. Thought he was going to be the face of the league. And then last year, sophomore year was all right. It was, not as good, but still decent. And then this year was another step back. So that could be a trend. That could be injuries. That could be the bad offensive line. It could be in many different things. But they're in a weird spot because it looked like the Texans were going to dominate for a long time. And that division's wide open now with the Jaguars and Cam Ward potentially and the Colts, whatever the hell they do. So it's interesting how that division's changed so quickly.
That could be a DeMarco Ryans. That's his name, right? DeMarco Ryans, the coach. That could be his Achilles heel is making defenses. DeMeco Ryans. That could be a weakness of his is making offensive lines. Like, every year the defense is really good. They've really made their rookies ever since, like, every rookie like that he has had come in on his defense has looked really good. They really have on all facets of the defense. But season after season, and this might be just his inability to be an offensive guy. Like we said, CJ Stroud has declined every single season. I would honestly say the wide receiver talent around him has probably declined a little bit because you can say they have Nico Collins, but I would say depth wise, like didn't he start out with much more talent? Like, didn't he have DeAndre Hopkins for like a game before like a off season before they cut him? And Tank Dell. I don't know if you guys seen him training, but one knee does not look, or one leg looks completely different than the other leg from not being able to work out in practice. How that's going to go forward is probably not, in your best interest. Like, man's leg looked completely different than the other leg. Second, last thing, I guess, like, you're saying the O-line has never gotten better. It's actually gotten worse. They got rid of Tunsil. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a change of scenery like that for him with Ryans as coach. You can kind of see where his fundamentals are. It's getting that defense straight. They're going to get us to the playoffs and win games. And then, as we're seeing, CJ Stroud's just going to have to figure it out with no line, which we're comparing to Justin Herbert, but we know Harbaugh's main focus on every single team he gets to is building an O-line and starting a run game. So at least on the Chargers side, or something at least that you hope on the Chargers side that their coach with his pedigree will do what he's supposed to do. We don't know that from Ryans because this is his first stop, and he's looking really good on one side.
Yeah, this is true. He's definitely, like you said, Lawrence, put together some good defenses, great defenses, not just good, but when it comes to offense, they kind of just like piecemealing this thing together. So I think this offseason, they really got to address offense. They got to put a line behind or in front of CJ. I think they got to take the Bears approach with Caleb and, give CJ the same treatment. I think this man deserves a decent offensive line. It don't have to be the best, but give this man at least some time to process and get the ball out quickly. And give him a stable running back. I know Joe Mixon was hurt, but let's not rely on older vets to get the job done. Maybe go out and draft you a decent running back in the second or third round. And I think they from there, I think they're definitely contenders for sure. I think the defense doesn't really need more shoring up here. So I think they really got to pay attention to the offense. But we'll see what they do. Next up, we got the Colts. The Colts, like I said in the opener, they definitely had a hot start to the season. I think they started 8-1 before flaming out. I know Daniel Jones, broke his leg. Never want to see that. That's a gruesome injury. And then they get old man Rivers to come out of retirement for a couple of games. Anthony Richardson, the whole fiasco during warm-ups where he hurts himself, gets concussed, plus thinks he breaks a bone or something in his face. A whole bunch of things happening to the Colts this past season. Jacob, we'll start with you. How would you grade the Colts season? And do they re-sign Daniel Jones? It's looking like they might. What do they, do with Anthony Richardson? If that's the case, how does this thing kind of shake up this off season?
I hope they re-sign Daniel Jones. I just hope they re-sign Daniel Jones at a price that everybody in the world goes, you know what? That's okay. That's fair. Because I think what's going to happen is they're going to give him the same contract the Giants gave him, 160 over 4, pay him $40 million. And then the whole question about is Daniel Jones any good is going to come back, because we've seen him when he's paying, when you give a guy like that $15 million and you have no expectations for Daniel Jones. You're like, okay, Daniel Jones is actually kind of good at quarterback. And then when you put the $40 million tag on him, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. And he seems to struggle. At least that's what happened when he was with the Giants. Yeah. So I do like the fit. I liked him in Indianapolis. It also helped having Jonathan Taylor, who, is arguably the best running back in the league.
Yeah.
I think the biggest – so I'll give their season a C, and I'll give it a C because of the way they fizzled out. Their coach was on the hot seat coming into this season. They decided to keep him and the GM, who's been there for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I think they're in a really bad spot, and I appreciate the fact that they were aggressive at the trade deadline because they were 8-2 or whatever. And then they went out and gave 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Doesn't matter what you think about Sauce Gardner. 2 first-round picks for a cornerback is a lot of compensation. Then they lost all their games after that trade. I think I saw a stat where Sauce was I think he was 1-9 with the Jets, and then he got traded to the Colts, and they went 0-9 after they traded for him. Mm-hmm. So Sauce Gardner himself went 1-18 this year, which is just the guy that you spent 2 first-round picks on. And it's that's just not good. I mean, I think that pick this year is 18, it's in the middle teens.
It's in the teens,
it's a quality pick. So I think an otherwise pretty decent season given the circumstances of kind of collapsing. Yeah. I think it'd be okay, bright for the future, but not having your first round pick this year and next year when there's obvious holes, it's not a good look.
Lawrence, what would you grade the Colts season, and how does their offseason look?
I mean, I guess I'd rate their season a C. I mean, they had a high. There was at one point in their season where you would rate it an A. Then overall, you probably rate a C minus. But I'm also in agreement with Jacob and most of their fans as well. After the re-signing of the GM and head coach, and maybe less so at the head coach myself, but mainly at that GM staying. If we're talking season to season, what awesome additions and I would say pieces is this guy making season after season to justify this stature to stay? I mean, the team hasn't made the playoffs in 7 years, 6 years. So almost his whole time there, almost his whole time there, he hasn't done anything in terms of making it to the postseason, which is pretty much how you're judged. It doesn't really. I mean, he has a great running back, awesome, cool. I don't even know if he was part of getting the running back, but the O-line is been set in stone. All they do is add depth. They don't add main star pieces to, I guess, something they don't need to. But I mean, you can always try. I think Markel just did.
Yeah, what's his
Yeah,
name? Nelson on the Colts. He's been there for his whole career. He's been a beast, but there's really nothing to show for it.
Mo Alley Cox has been there the whole time. A VCU star for basketball, but like if you watch his games, like all he does is block and maybe catch 18 balls a season. It's
Like you said earlier, Tyler Warren was actually a really solid pick. I mean, it's not going to excuse for picking Anthony Richardson fourth overall, but I do
uh-huh.
think Tyler Warren out of Penn State was a really good pick for them.
Has some internet connectivity issues, but not sure where you left off. But yeah, I think the Colts.
I kind of just like figure it out. Like I was gonna say, like the Colts, like there was no need of keeping that GM. Like there truly was not. I don't know. And then like the coach, I personally think they buttered up to that owner, and you know she's trying her hardest to run a team, and you know I don't think she did horribly, but you know she's taking notes of how this team needs to be run for the future, right? But also look who she's getting notes off of. Like both of the guys she's keeping in those spots. It's not like there's some old legends of the game who have proven something to this point in their careers. Like no, they're still young, starting off guys. So for them to try to like, I would say, you know, lead her in a direction of where this team needs to go. How are they also supposed to know? We don't know that they know. She doesn't know that they know.
She trusts him.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate her trying to get into the weeds of it. Like, you know, she's out there on the sideline. She's, you know, trying to be into the thick of it. But yeah, I think we'll see what happens there. I think Anthony Richardson's an interesting case. I wonder what they can move him for. Like, do you think someone will give him another chance? Do we think that's a possibility here?
I think he's getting less than whatever Keon Coleman's getting, personally.
I mean, how much less we talking?
I would be surprised if it was like a late draft pick swap. Personally,
like we're talking 6th, 7th rounder swap.
Yeah, I'll give you Richardson and a 6th if you give me your 5th.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh,
I think that's
something to look out for
rate.
is Alec Pierce is a free agent. That little white running back they got.
Interested in him.
Yeah, receiver.
Oh yeah, receiver. Sorry. Yeah, he's a free agent. He's got hands. I pretty much whatever team he goes to, he walks in there as a like, this is my secure second guy. Honestly, might be your third two go getter. Like, or I need a first down on third down. This is my go getter. He runs a little shimmy route. You know, all you got to do is break man coverage half the time.
Yeah,
I think this seems like a surefire guy. I'm pretty sure he's going to go to a contender and get a decent contract. I mean, his rookie contract was $6.6 million a year. It won't take much to convince him.
I've seen him going to Tennessee for a band. I see Tennessee paying him like $20 million a year.
To help Cam Ward out.
Because I mean, he's young enough, like you said, he's just coming off his rookie season.
Yeah.
But also, he's a deep ball threat. So, like, I've seen a lot of people in Buffalo, like, also interested in getting a guy like him because it would be nice to have, like, if we could get 2 receivers, I'd want a possession guy and I'd want a deep ball threat because we've never really had a consistent deep ball threat for Allen. And Pierce is definitely a good deep ball guy, but I think his price tag is going to be a little bit higher than what the Bills want to pay, which is kind of correlates with what I'm thinking with Tennessee, just being like, hey, screw it, we need help. Anybody come and help. Here's a shit ton of here's $20 million a year for 3 years. Just take it and catch balls for Cam Ward, please.
Michael Pittman is also a free agent after this next coming season.
Ooh, I like that for a trade because I've heard he's not happy there too.
Yeah, I feel like he's a trade candidate. I think Pierce. Yeah, I think the Colts aren't going to have the money to retain him once they pay Jones.
I mean, if they traded Pittman, they could potentially save that money on Pittman and re-sign Pierce. But who do they like? Who do they like more?
Yeah, definitely can't have both. Can't have both. We shall see. Last but not least, we got the Titans. We kind of already talked about this. Kind of a shit show last year. Cam Ward screaming for help. Brian Callahan definitely wasn't the right coach for him. Here comes Robert Saleh, fresh off of, season with the 49ers. Season prior, he was the Jets head coach. Kind of got he got let go halfway through the year, a little bit more.
I think a little
and
less than halfway.
Now he's making his second stint as head coach. Definitely a great defensive mind. They got a young quarterback who needs development, and he needs a bunch of help around him. So they're in an interesting spot. Lawrence, I'll start with you first. How would you grade the Titans season, and how do they go about making them relevant again? Not even just contenders, but they got to get on the path to relevancy.
I would say for the players that are on the Titans, I give their season like a C. You know, they tried their hardest. They did great. For like the whole franchise as a whole, like the front office, the fact that they brought in that coach to even be there as coach, I give them an F. Like, just bad all around. You know, second part, I think bringing in the Saleh candidate as a candidate, I thought that was amazing. I think he deserves another shot. I think Aaron Rodgers did do him dirty. And if we pay attention, Aaron Rodgers didn't do crap at the Jets anyways to even warrant Saleh getting fired. One thing you always saw with the Jets with Saleh there is even though the Jets weren't, consistently winning games, their defense was always consistent enough that they could stay within a game and be competitive enough with whatever bad quarterback they had. I mean, they had Zach Wilson, and half those games they didn't look like ass. They looked like they looked like spoiling milk, but they didn't look horrible. And that was because of the defense. Okay, man, if I can limit a team to 23 points and I can only score 14, well, at the end of the game, it looks a lot worse than when me can only score 3 points. So, just saying, just because the score always looks like it, does help sometimes for your job purposes. But, I think he's going to have a better chance. I think Cam Ward can go into next season, I guess having knowing his coach has his back and knowing that sophomore, freshman year, if I wanted to win a game, I had to score 35 points, throw for 400 yards. And I don't think Cam Ward's got that game in him. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks who want to go into every single game throwing 400 yards just to win a game, unless you're Drew Brees. But anywho, I think he'll get a lot more structure. There will be no, I would say, horse playing. I think one thing we heard Cam Ward complain about was the fact that the team wasn't locked in at one point in the season last year, and Cam Ward completely was honest and said his team was ass at one point last year. So I don't know. I think it's a good match for this coach.
Yeah, the thing that I just randomly thought of, and I don't know where it came from, but isn't it funny how we were just talking about D'Amico Ryans as the coach that has consistently good defense, but just never any consistent offense, minus Stroud's rookie year, which was also his first year. And Bob Saleh's in the same thing, where he was a coach for the Jets. Defense was always, like you said, it was respectable. It was probably better than average. It was probably top 13 level defense.
Yeah.
And the offense was so bad, it was the Jets, high pressure. He ends up losing his job. Whereas now he's in an opportunity, and you already know with his pedigree he's going to have a good defense, but the offense is going to be the question. So I'm very intrigued to see if he's made changes to essentially get more out of his quarterback or his offense just in general, because that was his whole negative thing with the Jets. Granted, it won't be as loud in Tennessee as it would be in New York, but I'm excited for the Titans. I actually am big on Cam Ward. I think the Titans season probably gets a D+, and the only reason why it's a plus on the D is because Cam Ward at least once or twice a game made a play that you're like, holy crap. Cam Ward's got it, but like we said many times, he's just running for his life. He got sacked way too much. He's throwing a guy's name DK and get just random letters put together because Calvin Ridley took the season off. He was out there, but he was barely playing. So I think, like you said, they have a lot of things to do, but I honestly, my fear, and not so much fear, I've known the game long enough. I think the Raiders next season might be this past season's Titans. Like we talked about last episode, we all want the Raiders to go get an offensive line to protect Mendoza.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. He's probably going to make mistakes and get sacked a lot, and the Raiders are going to stink next year. But just with Cam Ward, I think it's okay. I think that's how most rookie seasons are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Not everybody can be C.J. Stroud, lighting the league up, throwing for 4,000 yards in your rookie year. So I do think the Titans slowly are rebuilding towards relevancy. but they got to shore up the offensive line. They got to throw stupid money at Alec Pierce to get Cam Ward some weapons. They got to do things because they have so much cap space now. It'd be foolish not to. Just be aggressive and help your team in the now because they won how many games this year? 3. Like if they win 6 games next year, everyone in their fan base is going to be like, okay, all right, we're building. We're slowly building something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that their sheet of judgment is a lot shorter and a lot different than a lot of other teams that are under a microscope. So, like, really, if you're the GM, you're kind of playing with house money. Like, just go get some better players, hope that the team's a little bit better, and hope that Cam Ward ends up being, first overall pick type of quarterback because I think it's in him. I just think that, A, it has to be coached out of him, and also, like, the team around him has to be better for us to see, that talent that is inside of Cam Worm's right arm.
They have Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator.
I like that too. I'm a big fan of that. That dude knows how to develop a quarterback.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they move this off season. They got the most cap space out of any team going into the off season, so they got plenty of money to spend. Plenty of money to throw at some of these guys. You're gonna have to probably overpay a couple guys, like you said, Pierce. We want to overpay for you. Might have to overpay for another receiver. Let's get this young quarterback an offensive line. We might have to overpay for, maybe a slightly above average O-line, tackle or whatever they need there. So they got a lot of work to do. I'm not expecting a complete turnaround like New England had, changing coaches from, what's his name, to
Mayo to Vrabel.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo to Vrabel. But I definitely should see some type of, you want to see a stepping stone. Like you want to see some type of improvement coming from Brian Callahan, now Robert Saleh, which I definitely think can happen. So we shall see on the Titans. But yeah,
Marco, I can't see very well. Does that say $100+ million in cap space?
Yeah, $103 million. But I think after drafting their rookie, drafting their picks or whatever, they'll be at 92,000.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially when a quarter of the league's negative cap.
Yeah,
they need to be aggressive. Just go out and spend the money.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. 100% agree. Next up, leaving the NFL, going into the UFC, we got a fight night this Saturday, I believe. I think it's in Houston, right?
Yep.
It's in Houston. We got Strickland versus Hernandez as the main event for this one. You guys can take it away.
It's pretty much the only event.
I'd say the top 3. Let's start with the featherweights, the 145ers. We got Dan 50K Ige against, I think it's Mela Ezekiel. I think there's Ezekiel in there. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Costa. Lawrence, what do you think here about these two 45ers?
I think the only thing we can think of is that it's going to be a good fight simply because Ige's in it. I think that also tells you to the level of what the fight is, though. Ige is kind of like just what's the best way to put it? He's like a little bit before in his career. I was going to say a little bit before Gatekeeper, but I mean, yeah, he's kind of fizzled to being a gatekeeper. But I mean, he always puts on good shows. You kind of figure out if a guy is worth keeping after his fight with Ige. So, I don't know. I'd probably give it to Costa, though. There's a reason why they're making him fight him. They want to see if he's worth it.
Yeah, Costa's on a 3-fight finish streak. He's definitely won a lot of fights in a row. He's very entertaining. So, the way that Danny Ige fights is very, very fun. So, like you said, it'll be a good fight. Interested to see here. Ige had a funny quote earlier today because he basically called himself a gatekeeper. He basically was like, I don't care what the rankings say. I don't care what fans say. He goes, it's all bullshit. He's like, the rankings, he goes, every single time you fight, you go in there and it's 2 people and whoever is better on that night will win. And he goes, sometimes I've been the better fighter and I've lost on that night because I didn't have my best stuff. And sometimes I went in and I knew I wasn't the better fighter, but I was better that night and I won. So he's like, I don't even care what the odds say. I just think that as long as I'm better Saturday night, it doesn't matter. I'm going to win. And I was like, okay, Dan, that's a really interesting point. But I'm going to go with Lawrence. I'm going to take the prospect here in Costa. All right. So other than that, the co-main event, one of the worst co-main events in a long time, but definitely the worst one of this new Paramount era. We got Jeff Hands of Steel Neal versus the Doctor Euros Medic. What do you got?
I can't lie. I really don't know who either one of these guys is. I mean, I know Jeff Neal just from. I would say he's pretty much a gatekeeper at this point too. Um, from
Yeah,
his
he's been around forever. Jeff Neal is a staple.
from his stance, but I think I'm just gonna go with the same fact that like I think this card is um very much we just got to get to the next weekend. I mean, he did have two pretty much great cards back to back. There probably was going to be one that was a little bit a little less than to meet the mark, but I'll probably take Medic to win.
Yeah, he's coming off two knockouts. Medic is. Yeah, I'll probably. I don't even have the odds listed in front of me, but I'll probably just go with Jeff Neal just for the gatekeeper, the old guy's sake.
He is
One of those dudes that
he's a
fights
minus
literally
230.
anybody all the time.
Ooh.
Neil is a
Jeff
minus
is? Okay.
230.
All right, I'll take Jeff. Cool. All right, so the main event of the evening, we have the former middleweight champion of the world, Sean Strickland, going up against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez has won 8 in a row. He's coming off a submission win, one of the nastiest submissions I've ever seen. He literally just ragdolled Roman Dolidze the end of last year. Sean Strickland hasn't fought since his title challenge against
Duplessis.
what's that doofus's name?
Duplessis.
Yep, that was in February of last year. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So he lost that fight, and then he got suspended because he went into the ring and tried to fight somebody, typical Sean Strickland style. So yeah, this is a really big fight in the middleweight division. Who knows whatever the hell Hamzat Chimaev is doing, but he's definitely not fighting and defending his belt. Nasruddin Imamov is supposed to be the next guy in line, but both of these guys with a big win on Saturday could stake the claim to get the next shot at the title. So, who are you leaning in this main event?
I don't know, man. Hernandez, he's been hot and he's been pretty much doing everything right, and he's been fighting good fighters. But didn't he also just recently have to miss a fight due to injury? I think he did.
True.
Um,
Against DeRitter, yeah.
yeah, that was going to be his first real test fight. I don't know. I think Anthony Hernandez is a good prospect. I think he's really good. My only problem with Sean Strickland is some fights. I fear that he lacks a knockout ability or like a finish potential on some fighters, and I think he kind of knows that he can fight for 25 minutes and he can win by decisions by just controlling
Yep.
and manipulating a fight. Which I don't know. I don't want to see that kind of a fight because I want to see some duking and I want to see some duke out. I want to see punches thrown, which he can give you that. But he also is like an ultimate tactician. I'm just going to throw my jab 4 times back to back. Then I'm going to throw like this crazy punch, didn't hit. All right, let's get back and settle in. Let's throw the jab 3 times. But I don't know.
Yep.
I'm probably going to give Strickland though, just because of I want to say that ability, like we were just talking about, could control a fight. I think Hernandez. I think there's gonna be moments where he just will go for it. Probably in this fight, like, oh yeah, Strickland is a little wobbled. Let me just punch myself out. I think Strickland probably can weather storms. I mean, he's weathered some of the best storms. We just have to hope that the chin's still around.
Yeah, actually, I think that was really well analyzed. I think, like you said, the fight Sean Strickland wants is to be boring. He doesn't give a crap about the fans think. He wants to basically point you to death. He wants to leg kick up the middle, jab, jab, and just play good defense. This is the most conservative, I know how to win a fight without, basically putting myself in danger type of guy that we got. And it won him a belt. So, like, I'm not here to shit on his style or anything. I'm a fan of Sean Strickland, not everything he does say. Just for the ones that are thinking about that. I love Anthony Fluffy Hernandez too. I think I've been on his rise as a prospect for like the last 5 fights, and on his 8-fight winning streak, he has 6 finishes. So it's kind of interesting. You're talking about a guy that really doesn't get a lot of finishes versus a guy that does get a lot of finishes, but the guy he's fighting has like an amazing defensive sort of system. Strickland is an amazing wrestler. He never does it. Kind of like Justin Gaethje, where it's like he came up as a wrestler, but he just doesn't do it. So defensively, because Anthony Hernandez's best strength would be to get him to the ground and choke him out. Sean Strickland's a hard guy to get on the ground. He's an even harder guy to keep on the ground. So I think Fluffy Hernandez basically just needs to make this fight ugly in a non-Strickland style. Because Strickland wants to make it ugly, but in his sort of own defensive, boring way. Anthony Hernandez really needs to capitalize on the clinch. He needs to get him down. He needs to basically wear him out. Hernandez has one of the best cardios in this division. I can say the same thing about Strickland. Strickland's, he's notorious for going the distance, going a full 25 minutes. So I really do like this fight a lot. I like both dudes. Fluffy's hilarious. Strickland's obviously got a big personality. I think this is a good fight for the middleweight division, and I'm also very curious just to see how these two very different styles sort of, interact with each other because regardless of who wins, whoever wins this fight is going to cut a hot promo on the mic afterwards because neither one of them have a filter and both of them want the belt. So I think it'll be a fun fight, and it'll probably be on about 10:30 Eastern time with this main event starting at 8 o'clock. So nice and early for the East Coasters.
What the new Paramount deal is, we get these fights a lot earlier than usual. So this will definitely be something I'll keep my eyes on. I'll definitely be tuned in to see this one. But I think that's all we have for today's episode, folks. So thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening on Spotify, all that good stuff. Sideline Brief Podcast, episode 219. We will see you next week. Peace.